If the big plan is to retire one day, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with all of this time that you'll have? What are you going to do with it? How are you going to still keep purpose in your life? How are you still going to feel like you're still adding to the world? Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I have John Valenta on here as well again this week. And last week we talked about some of the battles that we both have faced in this world, and losing projects and thinking we had everything figured out sales-wise and had our ass handed to us more than once, right? And got that scary we have to think about it and how we work through that mentally and how we fix that for the future. So if you didn't listen to that, go back and take a listen. This week, we're going to talk with John about, what's next, what's coming in the future for his business. I know as business owners, we think we're going to keep doing this until our body gives out, or maybe we don't have a choice and we have to. But the reality is that there is a value in planning what your exit might look like. Like, what does it look like? How long are you going to be doing this? What is it? Are you going to gift this to your kids? Are they going to come in? Are you going to sell the business? Like, what are you going to do? And what time frame are you going to do it? Not that time way in the future when my knee breaks that I do it. Like, what if we planned those things? What if we were thinking like, I'm going to do this for those 5 years and then I'm going to move on to something else? What would that look like? So I have John on here and I can't wait to hear what his plans are now that he's been doing this almost 30 years and to get out there and figure out what the rest of his life could look like. So John, I'm excited to hear it. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here again. I can tell you definitely retiring and moving on is probably something I think about every day, but I certainly haven't planned or prepared for, what I'm going to do with the business and what's going to happen with it. I do have a son who's 20 years old that worked with me every summer since I think he was maybe 13, maybe 12. And got out of high school and came back to work for me, but ended up going to a trade school, going in another direction, and now he's doing great. So it won't be him taking over. So I don't know. It's a conversation I haven't had with my employees yet.
Yeah.
They've both been with me for over 8 years. So is it something? I mean, they're both a little more than 10 years younger than me. So is it something that they might want to take over when I'm ready to hang up the towel? Probably a conversation we should have at some point. I don't want to be that guy, being like, "Hey guys, I'm closing the business tomorrow."
Yeah.
I'd want to, plan many years in advance and get it all figured out before the time comes. But I still have. My youngest kid did graduate high school already, but they're, you know, still not fully grown out and moved out yet, so definitely got some years I got to keep working, but yeah, hope to not have to work too late in life and be able to get some time to enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to this concept, this subject of retirement, it can bring up a lot of emotions. I know when my parents had the garden center, they still have the garden center 40 some years later. Their vision, their dream was for my brother and I to take it over, right? They would start it and get it going. And then when they retired, that they would have us take it over. But neither my brother or I are interested in that. We knew that from early on because just like farming, right? It requires you to be there all the time. And instead of animals, you have plants to take care of. And I'd never wanted that kind of concrete shoes, if you will, kind of stuck in one place. I wanted to be able to move around and see the world and have flexibility. And that business model does not do that, as an operator. So I never saw myself there taking it over. And I told my father young when I was like, this isn't my thing. Like, that's why we started landscaping. I love the fact that our busiest time wasn't the weekends. I could have weekends off with the friends at that time and then eventually family. Like, I had flexibility around things. So I wouldn't want to give that stuff up. But then the bigger question is, when are you going to stop? What does life look like after? Because you can't do it forever. And maybe you'll do it late in life, and there's no right or wrong here. You just have to figure this out. And the way I like to plan things and the way I coach a lot of my clients when it comes to planning is, all right, let's start with the end in mind. What do you want to be doing at the end of your life? What do you want to be doing? Is it toes in the sand, margaritas in hand? Is it mountains? Is it the same house you're in now? I mean, there's no right or wrong. What is the big dream? Is there a big dream? Well, and if there's no big dream, what would you want more of in your life? And start with the end in mind and work our way back into it, right? And like for my wife and I, we love where we live. We've got two sons now that are almost 16 and 18 years old. Like life is going to take them in directions. Where are they going to end up? Like I'm perfectly happy where I'm at right now in the house. I don't have any aspirations to move or do anything else, but I'm like, where the kids go, maybe eventually we get closer to them. I don't know. Like, I don't have an exact answer, but I do know that I don't want to be working forever. I want to be able to make sure that I can provide and eventually to move on to the next phase or the next season of life and to do it purposefully, not because my body broke or not because I ran out of money or because of this or because of that. I want to do it purposefully and set it up. That's just how my brain works, right? Is to set up those incremental steps toward that goal. So while the end for us is not exactly like I want to move to Colorado and live in this city doing this thing so I can do that thing, right? Like that's not what it is. It's more about flexibility in life. So it can be more of a feeling than it is an exact location. So I say all of that because I know that I never thought much about that when I first got into this business or heck through most of my journey. I just said, I'll just work like my parents do until they can't anymore, right? I don't really see like, what's the point? Like, what am I going to do with my time if I stop? Imagine, listeners, you just stopped everything you're doing right now. Like the whole company just stopped and you had 6 months off. Imagine you don't have to worry about bills or any of that stuff. What would you do with your time? What would you do? And maybe somewhere in there would be your answer of where you might want to go. So anyway, I say all of that because I don't think this subject is talked about much in the contracting world. Most of us are just, going as fast as we possibly can, trying not to go crazy and trying to make as much money as we can before winter. And that same cycle over 20, 30, 40 years. And then what? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and where you might be pointing the direction of your life and your family and all that kind of thing. And how you've taken this inevitability practically.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't hear it talked about. We hear talk about sales and proper installation and all kinds of things in the industry, but not about the end and what we're going to do and where we're going to go, when we're going to do it. Um, I've always said I'd retire the day I could afford to, and that day hasn't come yet. So,
Mm,
I certainly don't have like an exact date or plan. It's one of those things you mentioned, like, with three kids, where are they going to end up? My wife says, I want to go where the grandkids are. Fortunately, we don't have any yet, but, with two kids in their 20s, it's probably going to come someday soon. So it depends where they end up. And, but, for me, and, coincidentally, that time of year right now where not like the, typical retiree moving down south where it's warm. I want to move up north where it's cold. I love the cold, love the snow. I love the snow more now that I've been not having to plow it for, I think, 4 years now.
mhm.
Great business decision right there. And love to ski in it. My daughter just got a job as a ski instructor up in Vermont. So super jealous of her. She's doing it now while she's young. Maybe that'll be something that I'll go up and join her doing that when it's my time. But for
I love
now,
that.
as long as the business is doing okay and I have good employees that are happy here, we'll keep it going.
I love that. That's good. Have you found that as you're maturing in the industry now, pushing almost 30 years as mine as well, do you find yourself being more particular about what projects you take on?
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And I think about my employees as well. Like, do I really want to make them wheelbarrow everything in that backyard and dig that with a pick and shovel because we can't get equipment in there? No, I'm gonna probably recommend someone else around here that I know that's about 20 years younger or more.
Uh-huh.
That's a little more aggressive, and we're gonna do the projects that we know we're good at, that we have the equipment for, that we know we're gonna be able to succeed at,
Hmm.
and really, exceed our clients' expectations at, and that we're going to enjoy doing and make money at. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt the same way. In the beginning, I would take anything, dude, anything. We started with a F-250, my father's truck. We borrowed it from him and then destroyed it over the years. But that and a wheelbarrow down along the Delaware River, when every year we would get big floods when they released the dams upstream, whatever, and it would flood down through. And we would go down and we'd get calls because we live right next to the river. And we'd go down and clean it up because people had little spaces down there. They go in the summer and build, fires and camp and that kind of stuff. And they want it to look nice. And after a flood, well, it doesn't look nice anymore. So we go down and get paid to do that. And that was like some of our first work. And I look at it now, and that was grueling work because you couldn't get to anything. Everything had to be carried down by hand. Everything had to be carried out by hand. Like it was, but when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you just don't care. Like you've got all kinds of energy and you're like, it's money. I don't care. I turned that energy into cash. But after a while, you start realizing that maybe I shouldn't be saying yes to everything. Maybe I could be a little more particular, and not because you're better than, but because your business is better suited for certain types of work, right? And certain types, and God's given you certain gifts, which we have the opportunity to share. And now it's a matter of thinking, okay, what are those gifts and how can I share them as much as possible? But yeah, we definitely have become more discerning in the projects that we take on now as been in it for a long time. But because we've learned over the years what clients are good clients. I got a whole section in the book about red and yellow flags when it comes to clients. Like, what are some things you can see that are going to be big red flags that are going to come up and bite you in the tail later? Or yellow flags that you need to question around and get really clear on whether these things could be red flags or not, all before you ever decide to go out there. Because there's things you learn over the years that completely repeat themselves over and over and over again. And when you see this, often it equals that, right? So if that's the case, I don't know that for sure. I need to collect evidence. That's my evidential procedure. It's like, I think it's this. I need to not assume. I need to now find evidence to say if I'm to support or deny that, and then ask questions around it. And sometimes I'm dead wrong because I'm human. And other times we're absolutely right. Right. And it's like, but not to fall prey to assumptions because you want it to be a certain way that you believe it should be based on your bias of the world. Right. So we have to be very, very careful when it comes to, pre-qualifying customers and making sure they're the right ones so we can spend the right amount of time. The ones we truly want to is making sure we know which of those, red and yellow flags could lead to something, but not guaranteed to. Have you noticed that with flags? Do you have a flag system or at least something like it that when like customer calls in, you're kind of like, yeah, I just don't have the spunk for that anymore. Like not even the scale of the project, but even a client personality type, a persona. Do you have certain ones that you're more excited about, or certain ones that you're like, yeah, no, I would do that when I was 20, but not now?
Yeah, yeah, especially the ones that say, like I could do it myself, but I don't have the time. So then
Mm,
I know they don't value our expertise. Um, ones that, are saying the word bid. I'm
mm.
getting 5 bids. Can you
Oh,
come tomorrow and give me a bid? They're just looking for the cheapest guy. We want to work for people that value our time and value our experience, our expertise, and are willing to pay us for it. And
mm,
we know that we'll be able to exceed their expectations because they're a good fit for us.
yeah,
We're not just running around like I said in your 20s. You're bragging about how difficult the job was and how
mhm.
hard you had to work and how dirty you got and how many hours you had to put in and not not so much anymore.
I love the honesty in that. You're like, not so
Yeah,
much anymore.
if the Mechalak doesn't fit on the property, we're not doing it.
There you go. If I can't get the truck within 6 feet of the dig site, we're not doing this project.
Yeah,
Let that
yeah,
for the young bucks. Let them do that stuff.
yeah. I mean, if there is, if it's a good client, we're a good fit, hey, we might just have to rent some specialized
Yeah.
equipment so that we can get it done without breaking our backs and killing ourselves. And, it's going to cost what it costs
Mm,
to do it the right way and without breaking our bodies.
yeah.
We want our employees to be able to go home and not be exhausted and be able to spend time with their family. We want them to be able to get up the next morning and not be dreading work because they're not going to have to kill themselves all day.
Yeah.
So we want to work for the people that are a good fit for us and do the type of projects that we're set up to do.
I love that. And I love how as we get older, we mature into this mindset of we're not a fit for everybody. When you're younger, like I said, you do just about anything, just like we all did. And at a certain point, you're just like, maybe not. So I would love to get a sense of, in a perfect world, John, if you could say, look, it doesn't matter about money or anything like that, or even timing, what would a perfect retirement look like for you and your wife and your family? Like, what would you be doing? Where would you be going? What would you be doing day to day? Let's just think it in the most idealistic sense of this. Don't worry about connecting it to reality yet. Let's just, pre-plan this. What does that look like?
Yeah, it looks cold and snowy.
Mm,
Absolutely. Even like a totally different thing. One of my dreams was to always to work at a hardware store.
okay.
Um, as a man who doesn't like going to the hardware store, even if it's just to browse. Uh,
You don't like that,
no, I
but you want to
do. I
work
love.
there. Oh, you do.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So who wouldn't want to just show up, help people find that perfect nut and bolt or whatever it is,
Uh,
and then go home at the end of the day and not have to worry about making sales and making payroll and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe someday get a job at a hardware store. But yeah, definitely the cold, the snow. I'd love to be able to retire while my knees are still good and I could still
right.
ski. Um, and maybe get a job on the mountain because I think if you retire and just sit and don't do anything, I don't think you're going to live much longer. I think you need a reason to get out of bed. I think
Yeah.
you need purpose and something to do every day that actually makes a difference, not only in your life but other people's lives, and it'll keep you motivated to stay healthy and get up and do it another day and be there for your family. And I'd love to be there and hopefully have grandkids someday and be as good of a grandfather as my father and my grandfather was. It's definitely a goal in life.
I love that, dude. That's awesome. And I think I'd bet the wager here that, by a ski mountain, there's probably a hardware store, right? So
I've already
they're all over the
counted
place.
them all. I know every
You
hardware store.
already know. I love it. But you hit on a very key point here. Oftentimes we think of retirement as a time we can finally just hang up our hats and be like, I'm done. No one needs me anymore. I'm good. Like I made enough money or however I figured out the finance side of things. I'm good. Like I can just coast. And yeah, I got to see this firsthand, brother, and it broke my heart. My grandfather, incredible man, he worked up until his late 60s. He finally retired. He was so excited about it. He drove tractor trailer most of his life. He worked as a janitor at the Votech school. Just a good man. And when he retired I think it was around 68, when he retired, I remember looking from out because we lived next to each other. So I could look from our house where my home was and then look up on my grandparents' house and you could see. And we had he had 5 acres behind us. We had 10 acres out in front and there's 100 acres of farmland on either side. So in the middle of nowhere, right? It was great though because we got to kind of grow up together. But I know after he retired, when he didn't have a purpose anymore, you could see him falling fast. And eventually I just saw him sitting in one of the sheds. He'd be drinking a beer or smoking a cigarette or whatever it was and just sit there on a 5-gallon can flipped upside down, just had nothing to do. Like he had no purpose, nothing. And unfortunately, only 2 years later, he died. I'm like, can you
Wow.
imagine? Can you imagine working your entire life all for the goal of retirement? Because he talked about that a lot, about retirement, all to retire, to have no purpose, and to pass away like 2 years later. I just, I'll always remember seeing him sitting there in that doorway of that one building. And I'll always remember him sitting there and he seemed happy with it. Like he was sitting there with it. But so I remember at a certain point after he retired, I went up to him after seeing him there. I'm like, Pap, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? He's like, I don't know. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. Go hunting, go do this kind of stuff. The problem was that he lost the spark. He lost the purpose of life. He lost what he was here for. When you have a job or when you're serving clients and all that, you have this opportunity each and every day to go out and make a difference in somebody's life. And you have this thing that pulls you forward. It's something bigger than you. And when you let all that go and you say, I'm going to retire and stop, to your point, to stop, that's when your whole body starts to fall apart. Your emotions start to fall apart. Like you start to die. And one of the only blessings that I can think of during that time is seeing him sitting there. I remember going up and talking. I said, Pap, you want to come with us being a truck driver? Do you want to drive our trucks? Because we had a small landscaping company at the time. And we said, you could just drive stuff around because his knees were bad. And, his body was giving up on him. But he's like, yeah, I can do that. and you could see the life come back into him again. You could see the life. He's like, all of a sudden he would call us at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Josh, have you thought about with this project? Have you thought about what you're going to do with the geogrid underneath that project? Do you have enough of it? And they're like, Pap, settle down. We already got it figured out. But he felt like he was back alive again. It was so amazing to see, but it only lasted for 2 years. Right. So I say that to listeners out there that if the big plan is to retire one day, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with all of this time that you'll have? What are you going to do with it? How are you going to still keep purpose in your life? How are you still going to feel like you're still adding to the world? How are you going to feel like, what is it going to take for you to feel alive each and every day after that? And for some, that's pretty easy. They have this magical idea of what they're going to do and they go do it. And for others, they don't. They never really thought out the end part. It was like, let's just get there and we'll figure it out later. And for my wife and I, we've become clear in the last few years that we would like to live somewhere with mountains and lakes, somewhere where we can hike, somewhere that has seasons. We love the seasons. So we don't have an exact location, but we have a clearer idea of what that might look like. And when will that be? Well, it depends on what goes on with the kids, but we're already preparing for all of this. We're ready for it. What am I going to do afterward? Coaching. What am I going to do afterward? Helping, working in ministry, like things I can do with the church, like things that give our life purpose. If we don't have those things and we just retire and think we're going to sit back and watch TV, you will die quickly. The human body atrophies quickly when it's not being utilized specifically for a purpose bigger than yourself. So I wanted to share that with you listeners because it's been near and dear to my heart the last few years as I'm, figuring out what I'm doing next and getting clearer and clearer on this type of thing. So John, does any of those things resonate with you, or what are your thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah, totally. We're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
As much as we would like to freeze time, we can't. Um, so it's coming whether we like it or not. And I think the better we prepare for it, even if it's not exact dates or exact locations, it's something my wife and I enjoy talking about.
Uh-huh.
And 20, 25 years ago it was, dream talk, and now it's getting closer to reality talk.
How fast it does 25 years go, John? Snap the
Yeah,
finger.
like
Holy
a
crap.
blink. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's what old people think about. And now we're sitting here as two guys. I'm in my late 40s, you're in your early 50s, talking about what this is going to look like in the next 10, 15 years or whatever it might be.
Yeah, yeah.
It's wild.
It's hard to imagine life, not in this, landscape, hardscape industry. Being that, other than 4 years in Marine Corps, it's all I've ever done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a hardware store, if it's going to be some or other sort of area of this industry, not as a contractor, but doing something else. And I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know if it's going to be easy to just step away from it all.
So if you were not going to be, say you step away from the physical part of it and the business, but you still want to be in the industry, what are some things that come to mind and what that might look like for you?
Yeah, I don't know if it would be maybe, you know, sharing all of my years of knowledge and mistakes and some sort of coaching
Uh-huh.
or maybe just some sort of sales if I could do sales and not have to manage a business or
Uh-huh.
because I do really enjoy being a part of this industry. And the last few years I think with social media and getting to know people across the country that you would never have met before. Like
Uh-huh.
back in the 90s and early 2000s, you might know a couple of your local competitors, but that's about it. I wouldn't have met some people that I've met in this industry that are really really tremendous, and it's really enjoyable being a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we are so blessed to have such an incredible industry. I love this industry. I mean, I've been doing this since I was in my early teens and, in the garden center before that. And it's like, I love this stuff. I love taking ideas and bringing them to life. And there's something about the backyard that just gets me excited because it's fun. It can be anything you want it to be. Everyone has different ideas. Every property is different. It's the constant variables that come into it that make it really fun. And it's such a blessing to be able to share those experiences and the poor decisions and all of that we possibly have gone through, which were plenty for enough for a couple of lifetimes of podcasts. And yeah, man, we're just so blessed. So
Yeah,
blessed.
it doesn't get bored. You're not going to the same office every day. You're meeting new people constantly, helping them achieve their dreams with their backyard projects and things. and you know, getting to go on to the next one and the next one. So it's really impossible to get bored
Yeah.
doing what we do.
That's the truth. And if it's not the job, it's the client, right? Everyone is different, unique, and things keep happening. And you're just like, I never thought that was going to happen, but look, it did. So now we got to figure it out. I love it, dude. Well, I certainly appreciate you coming on, John. Here, is there anything else you want to bestow on our listeners before we wrap up our 4 segments here? Anything that comes to mind, or any lessons you learned along the way that really helped guide you to becoming the man you are today?
Yeah, it's, the one thing of just never giving up, but also never thinking that you have it all figured out. Always learning. I learn from people that are a lot younger than me now, and, definitely respect them for them sharing their knowledge and experience, and just constantly, continuing with the sales training, not thinking that, I've got it all figured out, and always, striving to do better and serve my clients better, be better managing their expectations, and hopefully come out on top, and get more referrals, and the more satisfied clients is just it's a nice thing. So it's been a pleasure and an honor to be here with you, Joshua, and look forward to talking to you some more in the future.
Absolutely. John, I appreciate you. Yeah, you've done a great job here in these last 4 episodes, and I really know that the listeners are going to be able to pull pieces out of this, right? Because all of what we've talked about is part of business and part of life. And I really appreciate you coming on and being vulnerable and sharing, and talking about your things that have went well and things that haven't went well. That's life, right? So I appreciate that. And listeners, I hope you got a lot from this. I get it something from every single episode. I learn new things all the time. And I appreciate our brother John coming on here. So John, if anybody wants to reach out to you or wants to look at the kind of work you're doing, that kind of stuff, how do they find you?
Yeah, probably Instagram is the best way. I do make an effort to try to post every day, but it doesn't happen. So at least a couple times a week, sharing our projects and what we do. If someone wants to reach out, there's the direct message. We do have a website, which you and I both know, who just recently built it very beautiful from scratch this past summer.
Mm, yeah,
So, happy, super happy with that, proud of that. That's got our phone number, address, email, contact form, everything on there. So, yeah, be happy to help anybody out. I'm an open book. I got no secrets, nothing to hide. If anybody has any questions, yeah, absolutely reach out to me. I love to help anyone.
I love it. And what's your website? What's the URL?
Generalpavingstones.com.
Okay,
I didn't
perfect.
talk about this earlier, but like the name of my business is what we do. We do pavers. We do pavers and retaining walls.
Yep.
We don't do landscape like plants, mulch, irrigation, water features, none of that. I decided early on to be a specialist in the
Mhm.
trade, and it's helped out with the fact that, we're not doing a big variety of things, so we can kind of really become good at what we do.
Yeah,
And if our clients, need something that we don't do, then we bring in an expert for that.
excellent. No, I love it, dude. Yeah, that's a whole nother episode right there. We could keep going here, but thank you again, John, for coming on, and thank you, listeners, for listening through. And I hope you got as much as I did throughout this time. And I can't wait to continue the conversation here in the future. So thank you for listening, and we'll be in touch.